long session. So, but it's something that we can absolutely jump on right now and give you those solutions. That's what the school clinic is. So we're here. Raise your hand. Mr. Rotimi is here. Edison, well, he's here, but he's not here, but he's here. You know, Folake is here. UB is here. I'm here. So come on, guys. Let's get this going. Raise your hand and we can go straight away into the school clinic. All right. In any area, this is a blank check. If you're shy, you can drop it in the chat box. You can send it to any of us privately. If you don't want, thanks, Dr. Olu. If you don't want somebody who people to know that it's you, you can. Okay, so we see one hand is up. Vanessa, did she drop her hand? Okay, so we have one question in the chat. How can I improve performance of students in my school? If you're here, you want to take that, just go ahead and take it for our speakers. Folake, your mic. Okay, sorry, I'm just making you co-host now. Yes, so I've made you co-host.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Okay, so what I'm just going to do is just going to share a few tips about performance measurement. So it's a whole topic on its own, but I think one of the things that we need to begin to consider are other factors that are not necessarily, written down. So one of the things that we found out is when do we measure, what do we measure, when do we measure? So I'm not going to go into what to measure because you need to have like what we call a baseline. A baseline is where were they at a point and where were they after 3 months, which is like your term or half of term. It depends on how often you want to do it. There's a formative one where you keep making sure you're checking, through the classwork and all of that. But beyond that, if we want to take it in terms of exams, so I will share some of the things that I observed that really, really helped, such that we were not assessing in a way that was not fair to them. So when it's time for assessment, especially your formal assessments, I'm not talking about the classwork and the homework and all of that. When it's time to write maybe your exams and stuff like that, because I know that that's the final results that people share for their selling point. You want other parents to know that your students are doing well. And so you like to share the results of your exams, whether it's your common entrance, whether it's your, whatever it is. So one of the things you need to be mindful of is, when do you set these exams? Sometimes I find that you set exams maybe after inter-house sports. You set exams at the time when students are tired. So you need to factor a lot of things. Some students might be ill. And sometimes the performance that you're getting is not really reflective of what has happened in the life of the children or what is happening per time in the school. So be very mindful in terms of when you set your assessments to be sure that the children are in shape to give you their best outcomes. Because I found that has been a big thing that we tend to overlook. And the way we also structure our timetables is also super important. This was a research that I did with my team when I was running my school. We used to assess performance per class, and then we ask ourselves, based on the overall performance, why are we getting this? And then we want to start asking, was it the way we did our timetable? So even your timetable is influential in terms of outcomes. So you have to be sure that you are not lumping subjects that are very tedious, because we are human beings. Research has shown that we can only take 30% of knowledge per time. So out of everything, we can only retain about 30% of whatever it is that we learn. And so you have to be mindful that even when you're combining subjects in terms of timetable, you are balancing it out. You cannot put maybe something like math and then you put maybe like something like comprehension right after mathematics. You have to be mindful of the way that you structure, so that you are sure that, even because we know that exams, and also let's be mindful that even our assessments are snapshots. So I'm not saying that, improving performance. Take a look at the structure. Take a look at the way you're assessing. Take a look at.
I'm going to say keep it very short.
Yes.
Because
so just take a look at those things and then try and see whether you're actually missing that they're actually performing well, or it is just the way you're structuring it.
Basically. Okay. All right. Thank you. So we're going to go straight to Dorcas. and then I'll go back into the chat. So Dorcas, go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, KK. Hi,
Hi,
everybody.
Dorcas.
Thank you so much. It has been a really, really amazing session. I've learned so much. And at this point, I'm beginning to feel very inadequate because of, overload of information. So my question really is, you said we should, just ask any question. There are lots of experts in the house who can ask. So I'm just going to give a little bit of background before,
I'm going to have to ask you to keep it really short. Really
yes,
short,
okay.
Yes.
So I'm currently managing this school, and our structure is, it's not really fantastic. At this point, I cannot even say like that. I cannot say there's a structure. I cannot say there's a culture. We're lacking processes. There's really a lot that needs to be done. And at this point, I think what we really need is like a proper school transformation. But the school is kind of struggling at this point, like almost sinking. And I cannot even say that we can afford like to bring in a lot of experts to come and do like a proper school transformation for us. So like, where do we start from structure to curriculum?
Okay,
to
so I'm going to move this
to
quickly to Rotimi. So
yes,
let me move that to Rotimi, because Rotimi he does a lot of work in the courage space and in the transformation space. So Rotimi, please go ahead. Please, let's keep it short, Rotimi.
I think the very first thing we need to do is you need to do a school audit or a brand audit. Try to understand there are some things we call low-hanging fruits. What are the things that we can do first that actually affects your business, and then identify your business drivers. From there, you can create an organic committee to tackle your growth concerns step by step. And then when you are able to stand on your feet, you can reach out for external support. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that, Rotimi. So somebody else, I'm going to go into the chats first. Somebody said, so I'm gonna move this to UB to talk on it as a mom. How best do I assess my nursery children between the ages of 3 to 5, writing and orally, right? Because as a mom and as somebody who's worked in education before, she does have some ideas about this. What do the parents want to see, right? And then how can you as a school put this in place? So Ubani, please go ahead with this one.
Sorry, what was the question again? I'm sorry.
The question is, how best do you assess nursery students between ages 3 to 5 orally and in writing?
Okay, so for me, I feel like we stress so much on what the children do not know. As a parent, what I want to see is my child communicating, and how is my child communicating? So if for example, it's quite hard, to teach in a classroom with different children and different, who learn differently. We all understand that. But understanding that with the different children that are in your classroom, how do you get to the different, to all of them, like classing them in the sense that you see that these ones might learn, in a different way from the way, and when I'm assessing them, if they're learning differently, it means I should assess them differently as well. I shouldn't now put one assessment for everybody, knowing that this child might not really, do well, because I'm assessing them based on, like a general assessment framework. So my assessment should also be based on how my children learn. And sometimes it's not really about the child knowing the 1+1 and the 2+2. Is how are they able to communicate with me as a parent? That's for me, that's more important to me. For example, myself and my husband, that's more important to us, to see that my child is communicating and understands, the basic things, because some things that are more important, than knowing the 1 and the 2s and the 3s and the 4s. What life skills as a teacher am I passing on to this child? So that's Fantastic. More important to me. What relationships and what life skills am I passing on to them?
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So again, yes, assessing is important, but what are you assessing, right? So don't think, and I would also ask Tomiwa. So Tomiwa is here. So Tomiwa is early years. So let's see her also sort of lend her voice to that conversation. We've seen from UB as a parent's perspective, and also being in the school, understanding that the different levels, different ages for that preschooler. But what really is the parent looking for, right? It needs to be visible in the home. Tomiwa, is Tomiwa here?
Yes, I am.
Yes, please lend your voice to that conversation.
Okay. Please just do a quick recap because I was doing like some volunteering in the back. So I just want
right. Okay.
Sorry.
So how do you assess children between the ages of 3 to 5? That's really the question. Writing and orally.
Okay. So first of all, in the early years, we do a lot of, on the go observation. So you are not exactly waiting for like one time to observe. It's from the moment you see them, learning is taking place, they are engaging. And so you just keep taking notes really. And sometimes we tend to look for big moments really, but it's about the small moments too. It's the small moments that add up to, determine what the progress of the child is like, right? And you just really want to note as much as you can and keep record, okay? Keep record. Oh, at drop off I'm trying to be as practical as possible. So at drop off, this is what I noticed. Oh, he said this today. And all of those things just come together to give you an idea of the milestones that the child is meeting, the growth that is happening with the child really. So just take notes. If you cannot write something down, take out your phone, take a quick picture if the child is doing something engaging, right? And yes, so that's really how you observe and assess really. And assessment is just going on and on and on really.
Okay, fantastic. I'm going to move this to UB, and then the next one would go to Lanre, Rotimi, and Folake. So please, guys, be ready. Grace as well. So this next one will go to Grace and UB, right? So somebody's saying, what do we do with all this Jakpain going on? Jakpain from the parents and Jakpain for the staff. So let's even look at the staff. The mass Jakpain happening with staff. What should we do? Right, so UB, give us some tips. What do we do? You shared some of it in your session today, and then Grace as well. Please go ahead.
So what do we do with the parents and the that's basically we're losing human resource, and we're losing students as well.
Inflow, yes.
Inflow of cash. The thing is, you just need to first of all adapt. So if your parent comes to you and says to you that we're moving our children, now you understand that schools, wherever they're moving to, will not probably resume till maybe September, or even if they're resuming September, if those children didn't get into that country on time, they might not start school for a month or two. So in that period, is there something that you as a school can come together and say, okay, you know what, let's find a bridge. Let's tell this parent, you know what, we can still offer services to you as a parent for your children whilst you're transitioning into their new environment. Just make sure that you keep that communication line open for them so that they know that, you know what, these children are still learning. In fact, I have some friends who've relocated Jackpot, and then they've come here, and then the kids are still, doing some work because they're like, oh, based on what my child knows from Nigeria, they're not teaching them that much here because they don't stress about some things that we do stress about. It's just the mindset is a bit different. So the parents are there saying, okay, you know what? I love what schools in Nigeria were doing with my children. I want that to continue. It's because those communication lines were still open. So the children still attend some of their classes, or they'll have lessons just to, make sure that those kids are still working. So, and that's also a stream of income. It might not be a lot, but it's still trickling in somehow. So keep that communication line open. As for your staff, make sure that you are open enough with them so that they walk you through that process. And maybe you need to also give, because I know that sometimes when people get that they're jackpot, they leave immediately, almost immediately. But before, obviously, they didn't start that process when they move. It's a process. So be open enough, keep an open door policy that people can actually tell you their plans. Instead of, you know what, this is our idea, it might happen. And if you keep that open door policy, you have the opportunity to transition your kids to a new teacher or somebody else for them to start training, so you know that, you know what, this person is going to leave, even if it's going to be in 6 months, 8 months. And then you also keep an open mind that it's not when somebody tells you they're about to leave, you're now going to start, treating them like, okay, you're even out, your leg is out the window. So what, one leg is already out the door. Let's not, treat you like part of our community. So just keep that open door policy so that people are free enough to tell you about their plans while they're planning it, so that you're not caught unawares.
Okay, fantastic. Grace?
So from everything we've heard from many of the sessions, this is obviously a challenge for quite a number of schools. I would say, just to add on what Yubi has shared, I would say this is the time to reach out for help. So I would say any school that is struggling shouldn't leave here without booking a session with one of the experts in the house, because there may be very peculiar areas that they need help. I would also say find ways to collaborate and partner with businesses around you or even schools around you. This is not the time to feel like you're the only one suffering and you just die in silence. A lot of schools are going through the same thing. So I would say reach out as much as you can to get help. Think of after school programs, think of rental things. You need to just, okay, what can we put out online courses? How can we leverage our community and together start to think of diversifying our portfolio? And basically for staff, just to retrace what Yubi said, if people feel like they're members of a community, there's a sense they feel like they owe that community. So I would say, and I know it sounds counterintuitive to improve work environment when people are leaving. I think it was last year someone mentioned something like train your staff so well that they want to be poached, but treat them in a way that they never want to leave.
Yeah.
And when staff feel like they are members of a community, like I said, they will feel like you will know, like they will let you know what's going on, and if they need to leave, it will be a better transition process. So conduct interviews to find out specific reasons people are leaving. So you may feel like, oh, is Japa, people are Japaing, but there may be other underlying factors that are making them leave. So those are a few things that I can contribute.
Okay. Another thing that I believe that your staff would have gotten, I hope they were here. Yesterday's session from Dr. Derisola, where she told you, even being in Nigeria, you can earn and work all over the world, literally, and you'll be making so much more. That 2.5 million that you're using to rent a duplex in Nigeria, it is 2-bedroom flat, 3-bedroom flat, depending on where it is in the UK or in America or in Canada. So why do you want to do that to yourself, right? So those are, again, reasons that you want to think about. If they know that they can do some extra work, even when working with you, it might give people a reason to understand that they can increase their earning power. Okay, so these are for the people I called before. Mr. Rotimi, Mr. Folaki, Ms. Folake, Larry. To be honest, anybody can jump in on this, but let me read it. So somebody sent a direct message and said that they inherited a school from a member of the family. And the school is quite old. It's over 20 years old, but it doesn't look like it, right? The finances of the school are not where they should be. So we have an old school, that's the first one. So maybe ingrained culture that is not what should be obtaining. We have poor finances, because what happens in a very old school is that pricing was not set appropriately, right? We also have a situation where their expenses may not quite align with what should be. They're not even in their permanent site. They don't know the person doesn't know what to do. They need as much help as they can get. And they also said that they're really overwhelmed because they've been left literally everything. And they're in that state where they're shaky, right? I don't know what to do. I don't want to let down my family, but I'm tired because this is looking like it's a rabbit hole and I don't know where to even start from, right? So I will move first to Rotimi, then I'll go to Falake. We would go to Lanre, Yubi. If you want to pitch in on this, just let us know. Yes? Okay, so that's the order.
Thank you. I need us to remember that a school is a place, a school is a platform, and a school is also a sum total of processes. So you inherited a school, not a problem. And so what you need to build is a school, not the problem. So let's not service the problem at the expense of building an institution.
OJ,
that's one of the things I would say. I just also want to say that it would be nice for us to remember that the perspective that some people have about what a school looks like might have to be reworked. If somebody doesn't know your brand or doesn't know about your school, then it's a marketing problem. But if they are not choosing that school, then it's a branding problem. So I think the solution will be to start with marketing and then try a bit of a positioning and a branding intervention. Thank you.
Fantastic. Folake?
So again, I think what Rotimi said has sort of encapsulated the bottom line, because you need to start from the bottom. It's not something that you can just pick anyhow. So it's a whole thing, especially about the brand, especially about the positioning in the minds of people. So you need to do maybe a little bit of research as to where the people, your current people are, or people within the axis, what they feel about the school, and then you also need to know where you want to take the school to. So it's important that you have those two things. So you want to do a bit of background, and then you want to have your own vision outlined and see how to match or marry those two things. I think any other thing will have to go beyond this, because I don't want to go into too much detail. So I would suggest that you reach out to probably Rotimi or anyone else here to have a further discussion on this. Yeah,
fantastic. Thank you, Larry.
Okay, so for the financial aspect, I think they need to start over again. I think they need to restructure. They forget the fact that the school is 20 years old and probably working based on the fact that it's old. No, things have changed. The economy has changed. The financial situation has changed in the country. So they need to start based on that. What's called work their finances, see what they can afford to do. If need be, inject cash into the business and start from there and just see that their prices right, and move on from there. Then they move into, like I said, marketing, branding, and all that. But I think that's just the way to go about it.
Yeah, I think that's one that we should really look at. Sort of ask ourselves and say, where are we? What was your current pricing? How much are you spending? Where are you spending that money on? Because without that blood of the school is not going anywhere. So fantastic. Thank you so much for that, everyone. Okay, does anybody else want to pitch into that? No? Okay, fantastic. So somebody asked, okay, so we had some hands up. Why did you guys drop your hands? We're going to come to you. Please don't drop your hand. Okay, so somebody else asked, there were some quite a number of questions, really. What do you do when the child's parents are not involved in his or her education? And say, Madam, how much do you need? They're not even concerned. They're not assisting at home. Assimilation levels are low. Both of the parents are just unbothered. What should be done? What could be done? Okay. So we would go, okay, Ubani, sorry.
This one is a very tough one, because sometimes, it might not be that the parents are not interested. It might just be, everybody's dealing with a lot, honestly. As a working parent, you need to understand that everybody's dealing with something. They as a parent might just feel like, I can throw money at the problem, and if money is going to solve it, then that's me being there for my child. So it's a re-education. Re-educate them. Re-educate the people that you're in contact with. Re-educate the parents. Have things that when you send home communication, you just make an extra effort to just let them understand their importance in their child's life. And, site situations, or when you have them in the room, take advantage of it. Don't guilt trip them, but make them see, the difference in a child that has their parents involved and not. Sometimes people don't understand what they need to do until they understand the why. So help them understand the why they need to be involved in their children's lives. So when people understand the why, it's easier to key in and, run with it.
Okay. All right. Folake, I see that you want to pitch in here. Thank you for that, Ubi. I love it. Folake, please go ahead.
Yeah, so very quickly, I want to add to what Ubi has just said. And that is, I think a lot of times we miss it from the moment people are trying to onboard the parents. So it's very important that we understand the sort of parents that are coming to us. So for first-time parents, it's usually a different ball game. So you need to be able to profile your parents as well. So if this person is a first-time parent, it's an opportunity. You must see it as an opportunity to educate them on, find out what their values are, what they're looking for. And then when they come on board, it's another thing for you to be empathetic. knowing that people are, like Yubi said, they are super busy. So rather than wait for them to get things on, and don't forget, we're the professionals, we're the ones that are supposed to know what to do. So when parents come and they want to throw money at you, that's fine, it's good. You do need the money, so don't look at it as a negative thing. But what you can do is that you can begin to reach out to parents, and then please be flexible in terms of when you give assignments and all of those things. And you know, I had a parent that used to go for a photo, she was a director in MTN, oh no, not MTN, in DSTV, and you know, so she was not always available. But one of the things that she was able to work with us on was, you know what, can you guys just put all those things aside? Those deadlines did not work for her. So we had to put her own stuff aside, but she was willing to get involved. She just wanted to make sure that it wasn't something that she was under pressure for. So I think being a bit empathetic towards what's going on with parents' lives and reaching out to them, and sometimes just even checking out. Remember, if the parent is fine, your students will be fine.
Yeah.
So check out, be mindful, and then just carry them along and educate them.
Fantastic. Thank you, Miss OJ. Fantastic. Thank you, Falake. Miss OJ.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. I think everybody has touched on my thoughts, but the last thing I'm going to add is noise. Naturally, people's attention move in the direction of noise. So there's a dimension of noise that you will begin to make. It might not be physical noise. It might be based on the performance and involvement of a child. You know, when I was in the classroom, I have this mantra that by the time you go, my kids are leaving my classroom, they must go home and have something to talk about related to me. So if I don't have direct access to these parents to make them involved, I'm going to use their kids to ensure that they know what is happening in my class. So that way I am getting their attention. So it was like a culture in the school where kids, you know, most of these private schools, the parents are all busy. You were not getting the attention, but I started a revolution from my classroom by creating noise. You cannot go home without, you know, telling your parent that something happened. So let us just stop the normal, boring day-to-day activity. Create activities that you know. A very good activity was every February, the Random Acts of Kindness month. And then one of the days I can say, go home, and today's task is to massage the foot of your dad or your mom, upload
I
it
love it.
on Dojo, you know, and I'm going to see it and I'm going to grade you. So the child wants to do the assignment. So dad, mom, you're going to put your legs. And when they are massaging their leg, conversations will be happening. So let us create, I call it noise, create noises around the activities you do in classrooms.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Lanre, Tomiwa, Grace, do you guys want to pitch in? No, where's Tomiwa's pin? What happened to that one? Okay, Tomiwa, please raise your hand so I can put a pin on you and we can see you on the screen. Okay, so there's another one. This is a core academic one. Should teachers set exam questions or should supervisors set the questions? Dun, dun, dun. Okay, Tomiwa, I see you. All right, so who should set the questions, please? People should tell us. Grace, Tomiwa, Lanre.
So I think
they're out.
I think okay, so we had this discussion last term. So we're reviewing and we're saying, okay, who should set the question? Is it the teacher or the supervisor? And I think for me, it should be the teacher. Yeah, and the supervisor should just check and ensure that the questions are up to standard, because the teacher is the one that she knows, or he or she knows what she has taught in class. Because the supervisor can still answer critical thinking question, for example, and just go off board, and the children or the student will be able to answer the questions appropriately. So I feel for me, it should be the teacher that should set the question, and the supervisor should check based on the standard that has been set, if the questions meet those standards or not.
Okay, Tomiwa, I see your hand. Thank you very much for that, Larry.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Larry, because I mean, definitely I agree with Mr. Larry. And I just wanted to add quickly that this is almost a general problem with education, how we are constantly, even with policy making, people that are not in the classroom are making policies for us. So how do you understand what it is that you are, you know, bringing?
You must put your Aluta hat on, Sha.
Because yes, it's important for teachers to be involved. And so something as basic as exam questions of what you have taught the children all term long, all session long. Why is it being outsourced? Why is somebody that doesn't have a constant connection with the children, why is that the person charged with the responsibility of setting the exam questions? As Mr. Larry said, yes, teachers should set exam questions and supervisors can take a look. It's good to, vet things and just make sure that things are well balanced, but the teachers should definitely set the exam questions.
Fantastic. Okay, Grace, I see you want to weigh in on that. Please go ahead.
Yeah, yes. Just to say that I think as school administrators, we need to start to trust our teachers a bit more, especially when we make the right kinds of investments in them. It will change a lot of things. They are the ones interfacing very directly with these students. Let's trust them to know that they understand the needs of the students, they want the best for the students, and then guide them as much as possible. But let's trust them, and it will show in the result. It will show in the expectations they start to set for themselves.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. So somebody asked this question and maybe, well, we can all weigh in, but Rotimi, this might be right up your alley. How do I attract more kids in my preschool as a new teacher in the business? I'm also struggling with curriculum planning, which then goes to some. I mean, Rotimi too is like I said, teacher. We're all educators somehow. And then I'm not a teacher by training, but I love kids. So this person wants to know, how do I attract more students? Abiola, where's Abiola in this group? Do you want to raise your hand? Let me pin you up. If you're able to join, of course, let me not bully people. So how do you attract people? How do you attract more students? How do you, so how? Yes? So who can weigh in on that? And then struggling with curriculum planning. And the person is not a teacher. So it's good that you have been in this conference.
Can I answer while we wait for Abiola?
Yes, please, go ahead.
All right. So if you're a new teacher to the school, is it your duty to bring in students? I don't understand.
No, they just started a new business so they call it in my preschool as a new teacher in business. Right. So this person just started a business. They used to be a teacher. Actually, they're not a teacher. They just started a business, a school business,
a preschool business.
Yes.
So you started in preschool, and you're in a local environment. Yeah, there's an environment where you have flyers, door to door. You walk around, you drop it, because I mean, if there are any businesses around you as well, go drop your flyers, take something nice to them, and go let them know that, you know what, if there are people in your organization that have young children, this is the age group that we have. We can actually even work with you and give you a discount based on the fact that we know that we have people definitely coming in from your end. It's just trying to, leverage your environment, and also have people that will either take flyers round or then do something that I like the person who spoke before. I think it was Tommy who said something about making noise. Make noise, let people see you, what are OJ? Was it OJ? So make noise around you, so that people are drawn towards noise. So let your school be noisy, in that environment, not noisy in a negative way, but at the times when people are going around for maybe something, have your people wear maybe some certain vests that will help with traffic, because you're helping people stop traffic. Maybe there's a time where there's traffic around that area. Have your school like your, what they call them, the traffic wardens, guards. They will just do that. They help. So as a person who's driving in traffic, who lives around that area, I'm like, this school, they're taking an extra effort to, engage with us and, helping the traffic. I would definitely want to maybe either Google the school or, find out about it. And as a teacher or a person who's going into teaching, you have absolutely no excuse to say you do not have, you don't know how to create either lesson plans or any of those things. There's so many things out there, so many platforms. I talked about YouTube. Everybody watches YouTube to learn. If you don't even know how to deliver the class, the subject, you can watch people do it, live videos, practice. Or you can also use artificial intelligence to literally create you a lesson plan and how to go, what things you should do, where you should start from, how old the children are, what you're trying to get across to them. Basically, get all of that information, flesh it out, because obviously it will just give you basics, and then you flesh it out. And then as you keep using your materials, you keep adding to it because you keep building it, making it your own. But you have no excuse because the information is out there. There are people who are making this. There's nothing you want to teach that somebody else hasn't taught before. Go out there, look for that information and use it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I saw Tomiwa had a hand up. Did you want to pitch in?
Yes, I did. And I just wanted to come from the angle of, in case, just as Ubani thought, if it was actually a teacher, right? Not a teacher and not someone just going into business, right? And if you're a teacher in a school, and she started off by saying that it's not really your responsibility to, bring children, but there are even things that you can do from the classroom. And I just want to talk from the teacher perspective. You just creating meaningful experiences for the children and, making sure that it's a great time that the children have in school and everything, and you're being excellent in your classroom is already enough marketing, really, because the children are actually a product, right? They go out, they interact with their family, and then other families as well, and people can see them. So even if you're a teacher and you're worried about how to get new schools on behalf of your school management or whatever the case may be, if you're worried about how to bring children in, then just be excellent, be great in your classroom and create great products, really.
Rotimi, please weigh in on the entire marketing part of it. What else can they do in terms of marketing?
I think first thing you need to understand that general marketing or generalized marketing does not accelerate growth. You need to attract your kind. Every school should have its profile type of parent. And then you now begin to design an experiential marketing aspect where, just like some of the speakers have said, you want to connect with the mind, not with the head. And I think it's high time that we begin to build capacity, especially within the enrollment dynamics.
Yeah.
All this copy and paste method. If you understand branding, you will know that branding is all about contrast, not sameness. So we should stop marketing our school like every other school is marketing our school so we can be seen and we can be heard. So sometimes it's not only about sharing flyers. Sometimes it can be doing a cover of a song that connects with everybody. You can do several things, but it's important that we pursue capacity. I think that sometimes it's necessary to outsource and make sure that you are using competent hands. You don't have to do traditional things if you're thinking about it. And there's nothing wrong in also trying to make a bold claim. There are many ideas. I wrote a book. One of my first two books was on enrollment, dynamics of enrollment within the school. And it's a science, KK. You know that there's the act of marketing, there's the art of marketing, there's the science of enrollment. And this thing, you have to be doing it in progressive sessions. So, for example, if somebody was to spend another 30 days reeling out their experience at the Rewired conference, do you know that that's in itself a marketing approach?
Actually.
Doing a character study of Ubani, of Folake, of KK, of Tomiwa, radaring the impact and projecting the outcome in the schools that actually attended and in the outcome in education landscape. You're already showing that your school is valuing knowledge, is knowledgeable. You're showing the profile of the quality of workforce you have without saying anything. Say we should stop all this, showing pictures of saxophone that we can't hear the sound, showing pictures that we can't see the experiment coming out of, doing pictures of inter-house sport that we're representing Nigeria, at the Olympics or at anything. It's dead and gone. Customer service at that level is dead and gone. What you want is to be able to create magical experience selling your name and the brand of your school.
Fantastic. I do agree. We need to begin to look beyond this one size fits all. It doesn't, right? Who are your clientele? They're parents who, to be honest, they don't want to know how many certificates are out there. They want to know that the children can their children hold a conversation, right? Can their children stand anywhere? So those are some of the things that they want to know. Yes, Mama, goodbye. Sorry. So we want to know, so those are some of the things that you need to begin to look at. So really, what are your demographics? Who do you want to attract? Where do you currently exist? Right? Who is around you? What are the services that you have? So yeah, there's some practical things like, do I have a boss? Can I use that as a selling mechanism, which people would still appreciate? But you need to then say, how do I differentiate myself in this market space? And that's important. And that comes from the capacity that you carry. So yeah, absolutely. I do agree 100%. Okay, somebody else says, how do we price tuition? How do we price tuition? Dun, dun, dun. Larry, Rotimi.
Somebody said she wants to answer this. Somebody responded that she wants to answer it.
Oh, really?
I'm so sorry. I read wrong. I really read wrong. I thought it was, how do I price my tutoring? No, and I think Larry wrote to me, this is your place.
No, yeah, what's the right way?
I can share.
And if you are pricing wrong, how do you change?
I think I can share from my experience.
Okay, sure.
Oh, yeah, so I remember it was after the COVID thing had happened, and a lot of people were very skeptical about coming back to school. And then there was a lot of pressure in terms of what we were supposed to put in place before we could reopen school. And so one of the things that we had to consider, especially for existing parents, was to be aware of the fact that people have been out of work for a long time. And I think it's always important that one takes all those things into consideration. Obviously, we all say we all live in the same country, we're all affected by the same things. But one of the things I did was to first take a sample. So we had a meeting with parents to understand those that were willing to come back and in person. And so a few of them were hesitant, that they were not quite ready. And so one of the things we did was to restructure the way that people could resume. So we had 3 types of coming on board. So there was the in-person, fully in-person, and there was, so those kind of things, trying to restructure how you're providing your services, then you can actually tie some extra funds into it. So you can't keep giving the same thing. Basically, that's what I'm saying. You can't keep giving the same thing and expect people to keep paying for exactly the same thing. Are you upping, are you upselling? Are you upgrading? So when they come back, what are they going to see? That you're actually spending the money on something, you're investing in the business, you're investing in the children, So that was one thing. The next thing that we also did was take a look at the extracurricular. Extracurricular is one of the ways that, we're making so much money from. Initially, we're going the route of, again, this is all about talking to your people that are offering the services, understanding what they're going to ask for, and then seeing how you're going to present that to your parents. One of the things that we did was to begin to charge for extracurricular per month. So we actually moved, so there was income coming in every month from extracurricular. So as opposed to, we're paying 5,000 for chess for the entire term, which it was still the same 5K, but it just became per month. And so that became an entirely new process on its own that somebody else was handling. So the parents, so that income, so every time we looked into the account, something was coming in. And also make the extracurricular available. Make it available. One of the things that we did was to have a timetable of extracurricular, and we were not fixated on our timeline. So sometimes we could have chess first thing Monday morning. It depends. So you have to learn to be flexible about things, so that what we then did was to present a buffet of options for our parents.
Grace, can you switch your video off, please?
That your parents can have as much as they want. So we gave them a buffet of options. So our children were doing extracurricular from Mondays to Fridays. So there was the option of 5 things. And so come up with creative things. Do things, green fingers, homemakers club, things that are in-house, that don't necessarily have to, you don't need to you don't need to go and look for specialized skills. So try to think about building capacity in-house, sending your people for training to learn how to do so many things, and then introduce all these new things into the business so that you can begin to draw other things, coding, everything, and then sell it to your parents. Sell it during your meetings. Tell them the benefits to them. Everybody wants to know what is in it for me. If you don't come at people from a position of what's in it for me, they are not likely to buy into what you want to sell.
Ms. KK, you're muted.
Yes, I just realized. Larry, Rotimi, do you want to weigh into this in terms of what's the best pricing strategy?
Thank you very much. I think one of the things that you might need to do is start with your value cost analysis. The value that you offer, you have the right to design your costing from that perspective. Only you know what you're offering. It's not so much as to what is out there. If you're offering a particular kind of value at a degree of quality, what is exact cost to that? And then you now do what you call competition analysis, meaning that you are now creating a benchmark to be able to now grade your school. So is my school a grade A, grade B, grade C, grade B, grade E school? And you are benchmarking to say the likes of the grade A, what are the things they have? Score an analysis, do a score analysis and say, what do you have at an advantage? What is it that you're bringing to the table? And then your growth and profitability index. You're going somewhere. Your school is a business and a going concern. You have stakeholders, you have investors, and you have people that would also be beneficiaries. Even your staff, some way, one or the other, will be able to benefit from the grant. So you now ask yourself, my growth, so all these three metrics now goes into your cost accounting, where you're able to now present the best way to say, over a period of time, this is how we're going to put our fees, and we will grow to the desired quality. So when you do that value cost analysis, competition analysis, your growth and profitability index, that's when you know that it is. And it will also determine the kind of service you offer, because it's actually meant to be value for money. So if you don't need to put AC in your classroom, think about it now.
My mic again. That was the angle I was also going to go from, really. It doesn't, sometimes when you're thinking about your pricing, you need to say to yourself, what are the elements of my costing, right? So when Ziba put it in there and said, what of the cost? Yes, your cost matters. But you see, there are a lot of times where, depending on the value that is perceived out there, that determines your price. People don't pay for actual value, they pay for perception. So what is the perception that you have created around your value, right? Around your brand. So all of those things are tied together. The reason why some schools will charge $1 million for entry is not because they have something worth $1 million, if we want to look at it technically speaking, but that is the value that has been put based on the perception that has been created in the marketplace about that brand, right? But let us even go into the technicalities of pricing from the very basic perspective. And if we were in the pricing session earlier today, the marketing, the finance session earlier today, it really was, what are the elements of your costing, right? How much is your rent if you're paying rent? How much are your maintenance charges? How much are your salaries? What are your overheads, recurring and capital? You know, all of those things, you need to be able to list them out. When you list them out, that gives you a profile of your costing, of how much you're going to spend to take out of the school, to maintain your school, right? And then based on that, you then begin to look at your inflow. What are the different elements? You have tuition, you have summer school, like Folake has put in there. You have uniforms, right? You have school bus, you have school lunch, right? You're looking at just tuition, but the reality is sometimes all of these other things make up tuition. So you get to that, or not make up tuition, make up your financial health. So you get to that place where tuition becomes your only sustenance, and all of these things become extra, right? So you really need to look at that and say, what am I spending money on day in, day out, monthly, termly? Have that profile. Look at that profile on one hand, and then on the other hand, say, what am I charging and what can I charge? If you want to charge based on what you are spending, you may not no longer be able to exist based on your current demographics, right? So that then goes into the place where Rotimi was talking about the fact that what are some costs you need to take out? Or was that Rotimi or Larry? I can't remember. What are the costs you need to take out? Is at that point you now begin to look at the costs and say, okay, I don't need AC in this class. My parents don't even really want AC, right? So you then begin to look at it based on who you are as an organization, your corporate identity, then begins to determine some of the ways that you move forward on those things. Okay, so that's it. Design a robust school economy. Exactly. Fantastic. Okay. And Cynthia, thank you for that answer. Fabulous answer as well, Cynthia and Wokedi. So that's pricing that we've done. So if you're pricing wrong, how do you change? Lanre, you want to pitch in on that one? If you're pricing wrong, how do you change? Or Yubi, do you want to pitch in on that one? If you're pricing wrong, how do you change?
How do you change
your pricing? If you already
if you're already pricing something and then you kind of change your pricing, it's a
no, your pricing was wrong in the first place.
Yeah, so you're basically underpricing.
Yes, you were underpricing.
So now you've now realized how much you're worth, and you're about to. Yeah, it's helping the people see the picture, helping the people see what you're offering, and that value system that wrote to me and talked about,
Yeah.
basically wrote to me and talked about, it's like, you know what, this is the value I'm bringing to you, and I'm basically all of these things and more. This is why we're, taking the price up or bringing it down. Never really bringing it down, but taking it up. This is why. And then obviously the economy as well. Price of things have increased. All of that. You just put all of that in together, and I think sometimes you have parents that are different types of parents. There's some of them that face to face, maybe when you come into a meeting is when you have this conversation, as maybe like a parent engagement where you all have a face to face. The head of school is standing there, explaining this. Prices are going to go up starting September next year, and then obviously give time. Don't just start by saying, oh, starting next term. If you're going to increase your price in September, give them at least 1 or 2 terms to get used to that. And then obviously constantly give that comms, send communication out so they remember, we're changing prices and this is why, reminding them of that. And then also, as you've done all of that, like I said, some parents will engage with you when you just have that face-to-face, when you have interactions with them. Some others are absolutely fine with you just sending them comms and they engage with that. You've sold what you're selling, telling them, what, these are the reasons for upping the price. And the quality for us, we're 100% on quality, and we're bringing you quality teachers, quality this, quality all of that. Talk about the quality of what they're getting, and the struggle sometimes, but most times you will get it.
And somebody, Nadi also talked about using the Parents Forum and the PTA as some of these tools that you can use for disseminating information and really engaging. Yeah. So fantastic. So one last question before we go off. What can one do, except there are any new questions? Somebody says, what can one do when there's a conflict of ideas on growth of a school between the owner and administration? How do you get the owner to remove sympathy and personal relationships from the mix? Dun dun dun. That's case study of KK. She used me as a case study for that particular answer.
That's why I smiled. I smiled. I was like,
that was me. Case
KK on steroids.
They will say, if parents don't pay school fees, we'll chase them and say, hey, wait first. People should chill. You know how you were screaming the same thing to me. Well, you guys a case study. I said my team had to come to me. So, right, you need to. Well, people are different. Me as a leader, I understand the place of structure. And I understand the importance of people doing their jobs, okay? But then I had to get to that place in my brain, first of all. And one thing that I used was logic. So I hope the school owner is here. Because I'm very emotional, I rely on logic. Does it make logical sense? If the answer is no, forget it. You cannot sell it to me, But if it makes logical sense, and I will look at it and say, but A and B, the next answer is C. So why are you saying is E? That's a loophole. I will exploit that loophole. But one thing you need to get the owner to do is trust your competence. So my team showed me competence. I was using mouth to say it. I don't want to be involved in this school. I don't want to be involved in this school. I used mouth to say it for many, many years. And then one day, they called my bluff. And they started to do things without me knowing that they were doing things. And so I would come into the school, I'm like, but you people didn't tell me this. What is going on? Or I ask a question, and they're like, oh, Miss Keke, we've done it. I'm like, what do you mean you've done it? I wasn't aware. And they're like, hey, Miss Keke, you said you don't want to be involved. I carried my head. I went to go hide it in shame because I said so. Right? But then they proved their competence to me. Prove your competence to your boss is what I would say. Let your boss understand the fact that we can do this. Have a reporting structure. Because I had a reporting structure. They would tell me what is going on. They would give me that reporting structure. They carried me along, right? So that even though I was out of the loop, but I wasn't out of the loop. They put me in the loop. When parents ask a question, they jump in and answer the question. Do you really need Miss Keke? We can support you on this. Tell us what you need. And they will respond to them. When I started to see that, it started to make sense to me, right? Seeing is believing. Right? Because this is our baby. This is my baby, right? I started this business in 2013 from a very dark place, right? And so it was something that gave me a lot of light when I eventually started it. So for me, just living it was difficult. So when they showed me that they had the competence, they could do the job, I was able to step back easier, right? So show your leader that you can do this job. Okay, keep them in the loop, but start to do the job. Do it and show them that you can, and they will eventually begin to step back. Right now, parents come and tell me, oh, Miss KK, but I'm like, you know what? Let me talk to the admin team, and I'm sure somebody will get back to you. I've started to redirect the parents because I started to have peace. First of all, my blood pressure went down because my blood pressure went up. You know, all of those things started happening to me. I didn't even realize that it was tied to all of that stress that comes out of running the business because I was carrying it on my head. But when you have an army, like Rotimi says, instead of one person, you have 15, 20, 30 people doing that job. It makes it easier. Your leader doesn't trust that you can do the job yet because a lot of the time you may be running to them for questions that they don't need to answer. You absolutely have to show them that you can do the job, and then they will feel better stepping back away from it. That's how I would say. This is from a personal experience that I've given this to you. But then there might be anybody else that wants to pitch in on this.
Yeah, I'd like to add to what you said. We need to understand, and I'm excited that we're doing this at this conference. We all need to be able to have honest conversations with ourselves. That you have a good idea or it's the right way to go doesn't mean that I would accept it if I'm your boss. So you need to put in some extra skill, sell these ideas and stop sharing the ideas. You know, so when you get to that point, you know that you want something defining for your school leader to do or your school owner to do. You shouldn't put the sentiments, and that's the bad part of followership, is flying the flag of convenience. When you just say, we shouldn't do this, this is better, and then say, let's watch and see what you do. You need to be able to take that bull by the arm and make it up to say that, you know what, logically, this is what will happen if we do this. Make a projection, make a pitch. Leaders should begin to learn how to make or sell a pitch. Pitch your idea and do it in a formal way. Don't just do casual conversation. Oh, Ms. Keke, can I have your attention? And this is on the assembly ground, for crying out loud. National anthem is going on. Go to Keke, please, I'd like to have a presentation. And then Ms. Keke will say, what's the presentation? I'm looking at a profit index as a school.
It's like you are the one that taught my team or wrote to me. Maybe they came to you for backyard conversations.
You know, make this and use terminologies that the person will look at least. Even if the person doesn't agree with you, the person can't deny the fact that you've done a bit of thorough research. And you say, imagine you ask question, right? Ma, would you love it if we triple our profit within the next academic session? Oh, yes, I would love it. What if I told you we have a strategy to ensure that we retain parents while we also optimize value? Would that be nice? She'll say yes. What if I told you that we'll be able to make things happen for the children, make things happen for the welfare of the kids, and make the parents give a very robust testimony? Would that be good? She'll say yes. The answer is this. I was at a school and they wanted to increase their fees, and they were scared about their parents. And then the school owner brought me on board. And then I came in to speak. And that day, to cut the long story short, I was able to get the parents to understand that they should have a campaign for quality. We came up with a campaign for quality. Parents were excited. And we talked about the schools delivering quality. They were excited. They gave examples of quality they want the school to deliver. At the end of my session, I said quality cost. We did an equation and they agreed. Everything that they called quality, that they wanted as an outcome for their children, they came up with a cost equation. Guess what? That meeting ended with a pay increase. The parents signed off at that meeting. They started paying within a term for the next term. Why? Because we're able to sell the message, right? Quality cost. Guess what? One of my first few presentations was questioned. I said, guess where this is? I showed them a picture of a standard Olympics swimming pool. They couldn't answer. I said, get of a standard football field. They couldn't answer. I said, this is your school in the next 2 years. This is your swimming pool. This is your sport academy. And for it to happen, we need to value cost and we need to champion increase in cost. And that was how they did it. You know, guess what? This one of the schools I did that for, in 2 years, they have a new campus.
Yeah, so give that value out.
Over 10 million.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you for that, Rotimi. So there's one question came in. This is a core academic question. So Danielle, OJ, I mean, well, we're all academicians, to be honest, right? So says, if you offer the Nigerian curriculum in your school, what are some subjects that are duplicates in terms of their content? Topics are practically the same in 2 different subjects. Based on your school's vision, you don't think a particular subject is needed. Is it okay to take out subjects like this as a private school? To what extent can you tweak your curriculum to fit your school's vision without necessarily violating the Ministry of Education's guideline. Now, Folake, this school is in Ogun State, if I remember correctly, right? Aramide, which is where your domain was, right? So from a domain and from a regulatory perspective, it would be great if you weigh in on this, and then we can have other people just weigh in based on the ethical part of just running a curriculum that doesn't make sense.
Well, a curriculum that doesn't make sense.
Sorry.
Well, it's interesting because the reality is that the Nigerian curriculum does need a bit of work. Maybe not a bit, let's not say a bit.
A lot.
But one of the things that we do need to begin to do is to actually see how we can marry things. I'm not sure in terms of when you talk about subjects, and I'm not sure what age groups that you are building the curriculum for. I don't know whether it's a secondary school level or at the primary school level.
Because it's primary school level.
Lovely. So for the primary school level, it's a bit easier to tweak than it is at secondary school, because the way the thing is now is that people are no longer mandated to write common entrance as it used to be, and so there's a lot more freedom, so to speak, in terms of working with the Nigerian curriculum and trying to merge it with whatever curriculum that you're offering. But the important thing is this: what are the milestones that need to be achieved at every level? If you have a particular topic, do not forget that you're not just raising the children for your school, but you need to be sure that the children can actually fit into whatever environment, so they can be fluid citizens. So wherever they go, they must be able to flow, whether if their parents fall on hard times and they have to go to a Nigerian school, they still need to be able to fit in. So when you say you're taking out things, you need to be very careful in terms of what exactly are we going to take out. And I'm not sure, one of the ways that you can also do that is to reward your subject names, but not necessarily so, and then try to see how you can infuse the Nigerian content into those. For example, we had, instead of, what I did was when I saw social studies, I saw how broad social studies was. So as far back as 8 years ago, I had social studies, then we had history, and then we had geography. And so we were able to cover all of those. I mean, whatever we felt needed to go into those things, then we did put those things there. So you have a bit more freedom, and then Ogun State is not as, as tough as Lagos State, so to speak. So in Ogun State, yes, you can have a bit, but just make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to do. You don't necessarily have to rubbish the Nigerian curriculum. We have a lot of rich content. So just look for what works, where you can fit it in, and how that works in line with the school, not just the school vision, but don't forget your vision should make sure that your children can fit into anywhere. I think with that at the back of your mind, it will help you.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. Yes, Ms. OJ, I see your hand. Danielle, let me know if you want to weigh in.
Okay. Okay, so the honest truth is Nigerian curriculum is also very rich. I normally would say unnecessarily rich because of how broad it is. And we will observe that there's some content that, in all honesty, they are very unnecessary. So this is what I will encourage. And what I do is I draw up my curriculum backward, first of all, with my school vision in mind. Then secondly, backward, meaning I'm going to use an average of past questions for up to 10 years to observe content that are being evaluated. So if I'm not going to get assessed on a particular subject matter, I don't see any reason why it's going to be there if it's irrelevant to my school vision and to the child. For instance, I had to rework the Nigerian content for, I think they call it BST, Basic Science and Technology. And I saw a topic there, and the topic was advantage of pure water. That's the normal sachet water that we drink. And I have a different opinion about that. The nylon, the packaging has certain chemicals that I feel is unhealthy. And my curriculum is saying I should teach the children the importance. So when I got there, I kicked it out. But I mentioned to them that, yes, some people in certain areas, they still drink this. And it's supposed to be pure water because according to them, it's purified. However, these are the side effects because of the labeling they need to do, the chemicals. Sometimes you can drink this water and are testing this chemical. So I kicked it out of the curriculum, but however, I mentioned it in the class. So if the children are not going to, and I've never seen that in any external exam, the Becker or any of the Nigerian examinations. So if it's not there, there is no point for it to be there. And then secondly, you can sit down with the curriculum and look at content that you know are, I don't know how to put it, irrelevant to the 21st century, that you know the kids will never use it in their life. And if you look at the curriculum, I don't know how it states. I don't know how it is in your state, but what we have in FCT here, you will see that at the back, it is printed there that this curriculum is the minimum requirement. It is there. So you can use that to argue with any supervisor. You are telling me this is a minimum requirement and it's just a guide. So that means it's flexible and I can do anything I want to do with it. Most importantly, I don't take out what is necessary. So that's my opinion.
Thank you for that, Ms. OJ. Fantastic. I really like that. Danielle?
Hi, sorry, I just had some trouble unmuting. I wanted to actually piggyback on what Mr. OJ just said, actually, because we did actually have a discussion about curriculum. I actually had to write something about building a curriculum, actually, just this last term that's just gone. And of course, I don't really know the entirety of, or I don't have enough like intimate knowledge of Nigerian curriculum. But what I would say is this, like looking at the curriculum from the skeletal view, if there is a way to kind of, I like to draw connections between subjects. I love doing that. It's like how we teach separate subjects in different schools here. Oh, okay. I like to draw connections between different subjects. For example, I teach the sciences. I've taught biology, chemistry, and physics. My specialism is chemistry. However, when I'm teaching, I'm drawing connections between chemistry and biology, or chemistry and physics. And I feel like kids make stronger connections when you do that. So what I'm thinking is from a curriculum perspective, what we need to do is find where there are connections between this extra stuff that you're not sure you want and other subjects, and weave them in. Because as a private school, you actually have the the freedom to do that and to reshape your curriculum according to how much of that information you want the children to take away with you. And I really love that idea that Miss OJ just said about planning backwards. Like, what do you want them to take away with them? So knowing exactly what you want them to take away helps you to kind of pick and choose and just kind of squash things together. So it means that some subjects will end up being a bit heavier, perhaps, but at least you'll have one less subject that was kind of unnecessary.
Absolutely. And I mean, what OJ said is something that we did. I think we did that in 2015 or 2016. I'm not sure. We sat down and said, we didn't have a secondary school at that time, so it was year 5. We didn't even have a year 6. And said, when they're doing a secondary school exam, so we took the secondary school exam and we broke it apart and said, what are the subjects that always occur? What are the topics that always occur? What are the concepts that must be covered? And we broke down those concepts from year 6 all the way down to preschool. It might sound ridiculous, but all the way down to preschool, we broke it down. Of course, in preschool, it was more about number sense and understanding, sort of those things, but it gave the foundation that they needed to springboard. So that's something that we did, and it really helped. Something else we also do is what you just said, Aramide, and I think that really answers your question. When you look at some subjects, for example, if you look at geography, you look at agricultural science, you look at social studies, you look at history, some of all those subjects work together. They're elements of science that you have in geography and in agriculture. So what do? We really then need to say, how do we synchronize the delivery of the curriculum? A lot of times, it's not the fact that you have a Lamborghini. It's the fact that you don't know how to drive a Lamborghini that is the problem. And so we need to begin to say to ourselves, how do we deliver the curriculum in such a way that it is impactful, in such a way that children go away from there knowing that they have learned? And when we begin to think that way, it will change the entire dynamics of even how we see the curriculum. The curriculum is a tool. It's a vehicle, but how do you drive it? How do you drop it? How do you assess it? How do you use it? Right? And that takes me to the final question. I'm sorry, guys. Last final question. Okay? Something that we need to, fantastic. Thank you for that, Danielle. Somebody asked about assessments for learning and assessments of learning. you know, how do we use assessments for learning to become assessments of learning, right? So what do we do with assessments really? You know, my nephew. Okay, so yeah, Grace, is somebody jumping in? You love this question. Danielle, please jump in on this one. Let me check my baby.
Okay. Yeah, I say I love this question because it's something I wish I'd had more time to talk about in my session. So assessment, there's all kinds of assessment. In fact, we're always doing it as teachers. You talk to your children, you're assessing them in your brain. You're already starting to figure out whether there's something going on there. Are they getting it? Are they not getting it? You know, it's everything from the engagement you see on their faces to what things they're saying, what they're writing down, whether or not they're answering the questions correctly. You're always assessing. So I feel as though, so let me just, I'm hoping to see that question actually. Was it directly sent or can I see the whole question so I don't go off topic? Where was the question? Where's the question? Where's the question? Can someone please read me that question again? Because I just want to make sure I don't go off topic. Like I said, I like the question. Sorry, I can't hear you.
So the question was really about assessments for learning and assessments of learning. How
Okay.
do you use it? Yeah, for learning. Yeah, that's it. Thanks, Mr. Rotimi. So how do
Okay.
you use? Let me just pull it up. I had it open, but then I had to run off.
All right. So assessment for learning.
Yeah,
I would
for
define
learning
that
and
as
of learning. What is the connection to drive learning in general, really?
so I would call assessment for learning your formative assessment. That's the stuff you do in the classroom
Yeah.
before it is like your standardized exams, before it is end of year exam sort of thing like that. We do half term. We don't do half term. We do termly exams, and we of course have our standardized exams like SATs and GCSEs over here. And before you do that, your formative assessment is the stuff you're doing within each lesson, asking them questions, seeing how they did with their classwork, that kind of thing. And you can actually collect data on that to be able to find out how they're actually progressing and what their strengths and weaknesses are. And you can use that to then make sure that they can make the progress they need to be able to succeed when they do their summative assessment. That's like the sum of what they've learned. Summative assessment, which is your standardized tests or end of year exams. So the connection between those two is just basically one is it's not that it doesn't add up towards the end of, it doesn't add up to the total grade, only in the sense that it's not on paper and it's not the result they take home. That's the only thing with the formative assessment. But it is informative to you as to what to do for those students so they can make progress. Whereas the summative assessment, well, once it's on the paper and that's it.
Yeah.
And it's it's kind of fixed. So
Yeah.
I'm an advocate for giving kids pop quizzes. If you know that some students are very good at coursework and some students are good at exams, you now know who it is that needs to be trained in exam taking and exam strategy and who needs to be trained in coursework strategy as well. You now know what you need to do with the students, but you only know that if you give them exam style questions in your lessons. And I tend to do that with particularly my exam years, but before they get to their exam years, I train them to start getting ready to know how to answer exam questions, to do their, their coursework.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Yes, Falake.
Yeah, there's something called precision teaching, which also helps. So some of the tips that you can take away is you need to have a baseline for your students. So a lot of times we don't take baselines in terms of where is this child at presently. And so that way we're not able to tell. And then we need to develop what we call mastery criteria for at what point do we determine that the students have learned this? How many trials does it take? What score is okay for us to be able to say, you know what, I believe that this child is confident at this point of his learning and can move forward to something else. So those are things that we need to begin to factor in when we are doing our assessments as well, especially when we're moving from the formative to the summative. So just wanted to pitch that in.
Absolutely. I love that. Precision teaching and baselines. We really do need to do that. Okay. Thank you all so much. And then just to speak to one more thing, you really can never match assessments for learning and assessments of learning. They're two different focus points, right? Assessments are formative. One is formative. You really don't match it because you're supporting the student with that one. It is corrective and it's very in the nature of it. The objectives are different, so you really shouldn't be thinking about matching them because they have two different points of view. So yes. Thank you all so much. This is the end of School Rewired 2.0. Woo!
Well done, KK.
Yes, thank you. So we're off to School
Okay, this was
Rewired
amazing.
3.0. Yes. Thank you all so much. Thank you all so much. The links to your certificates will be posted in the group. Please connect with those links. You need to fill them in, and that's where you get your assessments. But thank you, every single one of you. You guys have been phenomenal. Thank you all so much. So yes, we can unmute our mics. We can say hello. We can say hi. We can say bye. Thank you all so much. Bye, everyone. What's up? It's so close.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Miss
Thank
KK.
Thank you, KK. Love you. Thank you.
Bye, Miss
Thanks so
KK.
much.
Thank
So
you
happy
so
I
much.
came. God
Bye.
bless
It's been
you.
awesome. Thanks.
Bye.
It's been awesome.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Please give us
Goodbye.
feedback. Give us feedback in the WhatsApp group. Give us feedback, please. Fill our feedback forms when we paste
Apart
it so that
from
we can
feedback,
do better.
okay, even on your page, they need to engage. You know, you guys.
Yes. Follow me on Instagram. Hey, follow me. Oh, I forgot to add myself. Follow me. Oh.
Send videos,
Send us your
Send videos. Tag me on your
links so we
videos.
can
Add
follow
me as a
you.
collaborator, right? Let's
This is
talk about
powerful.
this. Thank you all so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Bye. Oh,